Okay, yeah. Southside, yeah. That's where I spend downtime, yeah. I mean, at night, the rap, I check the podcast for the smoke, yeah. I don't wanna.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Southside Rabbi, where we bring faith to the city,
Yes,
culture to the
to
conversation.
the conversation. And we are also your grandmama's veterinarian's Bible study leader.
Favorite podcast. Listens to us all the time.
Yes,
We actually.
she does.
So what's good, KB?
Hey, so we are back. It is 2023.
It is 2023.
It is a new year
Yes.
with new mercy.
Oh.
We don't have last year's mercy, brother.
It is not
this
here.
This is a renewed subscription.
Yesterday's mercy is not today's. Well, it actually still might. But today's mercy is new.
It is, bro.
It is a new mercy.
Uh-huh.
And with new mercy means I have a new introduction for you for this wonderful gentleman that is sitting across from me right now.
My.
So let me
He
tell y'all
prepared.
something
This isn't
about
fair.
this man. I did not prepare anything.
Yes,
I am
he did.
I am
Do
trying
not
to
believe
speak from the heart about my love for my brother Kevin Elijah. Extemporaneously, which means off the top of the dome.
Yeah, baby.
And so listen, this man that is sitting across from me right now, listen.
Wow.
If you are a scholar out there, I'm talking about maybe you got a couple of MDivs.
Uh-huh.
You might have a doctorate of theology.
Uh-huh.
You done went to school and did some good learning,
That's
right?
Bro.
You
know it's gonna be good at the end of it.
You done published some stuff on JSTOR.com. You got a couple of peer-reviewed journals out there.
Yes.
If you've been breaking down the scriptures, exegeting, and being against those who eisegete. You've been breaking down the passages. You've been plumbing the depths of the Word of God,
Yes.
mining jewels, and then giving them to others so that they may love God more. If
Yes.
you are one of those individuals, all I'm gonna say to you is that you need to change your pronouns to they, them, because you are not him. Who I'm about to talk about is him. I am talking about.
You need them pronoun changes.
Amen. You need that. You need them. I know that. I know what it represents. I know we're talking about the sexual revolution that's happening that is flying in the face of what Scripture says. But some of y'all need that because y'all are not him.
I'm not following this.
Because Timothy is sitting across from me right now.
Oh,
Your
no.
favorite theologian. Your favorite dead's theologian.
Whoa.
And they dead.
Oh, no, you didn't.
Which means that in their in glory, they're like, he's the one. Like Neo. I'm talking to y'all about a man that is able to just open the scriptures, the scripture roulette, any passage. He can open the passage of Obadiah. And he can break that mug down backwards, forwards, reverse.
Obadiah is a book.
Exactly.
That was a character, right?
Obadiah was like a person in scripture, right? He was in Kings.
He was a minor prophet.
He was
Extremely minor.
minuscule prophet. I'm talking about Kevin Elijah Smooth and Grooves Burgers. This is a man whose skill with the scriptures. This is a man whose mind is so sharp. When one day he got hit in the eye, in boxing training when he shouldn't have. They was going harder than they should have. And Kevin had to go to the doctor and they had to give him an MRI.
Yeah.
And when they actually scanned his brain, it was a set of sharp knives and objects. And they were like, we never seen anything like this before.
Oh my God!
And the results just said sagacious. That's all it said. Which is just sagacity. That's all it said. I'm talking to y'all.
I was gonna use that word about you.
Oh my bad. I didn't even know. Hey, I'm talking to y'all about Kevin Elijah Burgess. Don't leave your Bible around him. True theologian for real. Ask your favorite theologians, dead theologians for real. If you have a pastor, I guarantee you that he is listening to this man. He is calling him the night before he finishes his sermon and says, I just want you to proofread what I have.
Wow.
Because, sir, you are the prince of the text.
The prince of the text.
Let me stop. I'm just joking.
He said, "You are
Listen, you think Spurs. So when KB gets to heaven, Spurs is gonna say, "I thought that I was the prince of preachers. I didn't give me that title. Other people did." But when I looked at you, I said that you are the prince. Of preachers.
Wow. I'm sinking in shame.
I'm talking about Kevin Elijah, Smooth and Groove, Burgess, theologian extraordinaire, Esquire.
Please get the Esquire in there.
Please get the ESQ dot in the end.
Thank you. I just want to say that when Paul said, excuse me, it's Paul. Romans.
See, he's already breaking down the text 12.
Now. Hold on a second.
Already breaking down the text.
When Paul said in that particular pericope.
Yes.
Section of scripture about outdoing one another in showing honor. I don't think that his idea was that after your brother got done honoring you, you'd be picking your self-esteem up off the ground because the honor was so indefatigable.
Oh my gosh.
It was so momentous.
Oh, momentous.
It was so magical.
Right.
It was so monumental.
Oh my gosh.
That all you could think about was not the honor, but how dumb you are. Why doesn't my brain work like Ameen the Dream's brain? I just got simple ones and zeros up there, bro. You have a full back end of a supercomputer's code.
Ones and zeros.
This man, ChatGPT, they made their models off of this man's brain.
Oh my God.
Let me tell y'all something. Ameen is that guy in real life.
No.
I'm telling you, he is that. I remember one time we were down in Ybor City. And these Scientologists came outside and said,
"No, I don't know.
You look stressed out. We'd like to measure that stress to see what kind of thetans are living in your soul that you need to have exercise."
Which will be $14.99.
Yo, it's so crazy that in the metaphysical world of Scientology, they still try to turn a profit. It's like, we just can't be handing out healing. Silver and gold, I have plenty. Now you can have the words of eternal life. But this gentleman came, he walked up to Ameen wearing his Tom Cruise starter kit outfit, black t-shirt, jeans, and a smile on his face. And this man was sure that he was going to teach this dreaded fellow.
Oh my gosh.
And his Southern vernacular and all the AAV that exudes from his vocabulary. He was sure he was about to teach this man a lesson, and I kid you not, in a matter of moments.
Don't listen to this guy.
This beloved Scientological brother converted to Christianity.
No, he did.
What do you want me to say?
This is not true, ladies.
Some people, when they shoot, they just don't miss. And this is how this man is with the gospel. He knows the angle in which you are struggling. He can speak to what it is that's the object that's keeping you from fully surrendering to the king. This gentleman, in some ways, has to remind us that he is a man.
No, that's not true.
For fear that we might bow.
No.
I've never seen counseling. I've never seen clarity of thought and mind and ability. I've never seen insight. I have never seen capability like what I have observed in this man right here. Ameen the Dream, Mean Machine Hudson. He cannot be defeated. He cannot be deleted. Tweet him when you see him. For his regular conversation is filled with the profundities of Churchill, Spurgeon, Calvin, Luther.
No.
And Malcolm X, wrapped in a Chipotle burrito with extra chicken. Do me a favor.
You don't even get charged for. Oh my God.
Do me a favor and make some noise for my man, Ameen the Dream. And I know what you're thinking. You should have just went right into the episode because that did not hold a candle to Ameen's intro. But that's okay. I am not these intros, Ameen. At least that's what I tell myself regularly, okay?
Okay, all right.
Before we get into the episode, we do have some business to take care of.
We do.
Brothers and sisters, from the beginning of this podcast,
yes,
we have talked about this Latin phrase called Memento Mori. Okay? Memento Mori basically means remember death.
Right.
Okay? Which is when we introduced our first episode, Remember Death.
Yep.
Greatly influenced by Matthew McCullough's excellent book, Remember Death.
Go get
but
it.
we also introduced as a visual representation, as the many of our household of faith forefathers would keep actual people's skulls around and have their auntie or uncles. This is not real. This is definitely made out of clay. But it was in the habit of men and women that came before us to keep skulls around when they were working on theology, when they were working on sermons, when they would walk into their office or their study. You can go to Google right now and type in Memento Mori, and a bunch of pictures of old men holding skulls will appear. Because it is a visible representation of what the Bible calls wisdom. We have been taught that do all you can to forget that you're going to die. Segregate death. Stay away from, don't think about it, switch the subject, sedate it out, distract it out. But that is not what Scripture had in mind for how you should think about your life. As Matthew McCullough said, if death is always somebody else's problem, Jesus will also be somebody else's solution. The Scripture was given to us in context of our looming death.
Yes.
The promises of God, the sheen, the sharpness, the efficacious nature of believing them, what it does to your soul, is contingent upon the fact that we will expire and stand before this God. Moses says in the Psalms, Father, teach us to number our days that we might gain a heart of wisdom.
Yeah.
And those that can appreciate that this life is not infinite, that there is an eternity that we are speeding towards, are able to make some of the most earthly impact that one can imagine. And it is momentum moris, things like this that remind us that Christ has defeated death. Our futures are secured, and eternity is where we are looking for our biggest ROI as we invest in lives of godliness and service. And this is what this gentleman here reminded us of. We named him. His name was Leroy. His name is, we don't know what his actual name was. He was just clay, like us all. In some ways, we were all clay, okay? But we named this skull Leroy Jenkins. You see him slugged out.
Slugged up.
A little bit of culture reminding us of the Southside.
Yes.
But today will be the last day that Leroy Jenkins, our urban memento mori, our slugged out, deceased brother. This will be the last day that he joins us on this podcast. I mean, please, could you, Pastor Show and Go, could you take us to his funeral? Can you give a little bit of obituary for the people?
Brothers and sisters.
A bit of obituary.
Brothers and sisters, I just want to tell y'all something. Leroy Jenkins was a good man. Godly man.
He got his flowers right here.
He got his flowers. I'm putting his flowers down here for him because Leroy Jenkins deserves to be eulogized among the best.
Yes.
Leroy Jenkins was one of the greatest.
He was.
He wasn't a perfect man.
He was not.
He was sinful, jars of clay, like the rest of us, ladies and gentlemen. His gold teeth shined like the glory of our precious Savior.
Yes.
And he sought to remember, well, as I need to say, remind the audience that will look upon his gaping eye holes that death comes for us all. And in that context, brother KB, Pastor Show and Go has to tell everyone that we all have an appointment. I know I got a doctor's appointment next week, KB. They're going to check me out. Hopefully everything is okay.
Yes.
But we all have another appointment, ladies and gentlemen, and that is an appointment with death. And because of that, we need to be thinking about the way in which we are living life here on God's green sheen earth.
Absolutely.
And we need to think about the fact that we all are imperfect people.
Yes,
KB?
brother. Yes.
You know that better than anybody. You not saw you tripping last week. So
Pastor call you
I
out.
saw you tripping last week, KB. So
This is about Leroy Jenkins.
But this, I'm sorry.
I just had to point it out.
Leroy Jenkins was imperfect.
Yes.
And this is the very reason why we need a savior, ladies and gentlemen.
right.
We need a savior to save us from our own sinful nature. We have all offended the God of the universe with our sins. And it's for that very reason that God's love was shown, as the Bible says, that he sent his son to die on the cross for the sins of man.
Yes.
That if we would repent and turn away from our sins and put our trust in Jesus, we may have everlasting life. We may find redemption by grace through faith in the Lord Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
We need that redemption, ladies and gentlemen, because we all have a day. For some of us, it's a long time until we meet that day. For some of us, it is a short time. But we all have a day in which we have an appointment with death, and we have to stand before God and give an account of what we have done in the body. And if we do not have Jesus in that holy courtroom for us, standing up and saying, "I paid it,"
Yes, I paid it all.
then
it is settled.
it is done, it is over with, it is finished, finito, done. There's nothing that you can bring against. He is my child. So Satan, you may try to come in here and accuse, but he's mine,
That's right.
not yours.
Okay, Pastor. Amen, bro.
If we do not have that, if we do not have our Lord standing there, standing in the gap for us, then we are going to have to pay for our sins ourselves, ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
with an eternal separation from God. And we don't want that
You don't
for
want
you.
that. You don't want that.
You don't want that.
No,
God
no.
doesn't want that for you.
And it brings great joy to us that Leroy Jenkins,
Yes.
he was covered, bro.
Leroy Jenkins was covered. He was covered in black suit, gold teeth, but he was covered in the blood
Of the Lord
of
Jesus
our Savior.
Christ. The only color that matters
The
in
only
heaven.
color that matters in heaven is red.
Woo!
So, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, we are going to lay Leroy Jenkins to rest. God bless his soul.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Mwah.
And
God
we
bless
love
you.
Leroy Jenkins, and he's out of here.
We get on out.
All right.
All these roses out.
Well, with that being the case,
Yes.
Speaking of
Speaking
skulls,
of Leroy.
Speaking of skulls,
Speaking of skulls, this was a good episode for us
yes,
to dust the ashes, dust to dust to our man Leroy Jenkins,
Yes.
because one thing that we have experienced, and you're going to experience in this world, but I just have a hunch that if you are a Christian artist, you might be more susceptible to this. You
Right.
might be more of a target for this, and
Right.
that is people thinking that you are somehow a part of a organization of powerful men and women that love to eat children and have Illuminati handshakes and work in this web of oppressive conspiracies.
Right,
Okay?
right.
I have had full videos done on me, bro. I was wearing an LRG hoodie one time.
Yep.
They drew triangles on everything. I
'Cause
think
they
I
had a
went
tree,
like this.
yeah.
They were able to throw the triangle right there. It's
Right.
like, my nose is kind of a triangle too, bro. Like, look at his nose. All right.
my gosh.
There was this. I never ever, but I never gave into this because I hope it was conviction and not just simply pride.
Right.
But I made zero adjustments for people that were really considering, and is KB a part of the Illuminati?
Oh my gosh.
It was so ridiculous to me
Right.
that you might think that the devil was interested in investing in the kingdom of God. He wanted to make disciples. He wants people thinking about Jesus,
Right.
turning from their sin, okay, getting marriages healed.
Right.
The stuff that we're into.
Right.
That the devil has a very, very diversified portfolio.
Right.
In the spiritual realm. This man's got Illuminati members discipling people for eternity. What are you talking about? Come on, man. And also, we're Christian rappers, fam.
Right.
Illuminati, I don't know. I guess maybe our checks aren't making it into the Illuminati because we don't get the half of the opportunity. You got cats on the mainstream. This man put one song out. They went viral one time.
And he had the Billboard
that man is
Awards.
performing at the Grammys. Here we are grinding our fingers to the bones.
A chance to perform at Ray's Snack Shack.
That's right. That's right.
Oh man.
And grateful for it.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
God
Amen.
bless our fans who
Yeah.
propel us. Anyways. But for Southside Rabbi, Leroy Jenkins, especially for some of our non-national supporters,
Right.
It can be very confusing.
Right.
Because when some folks see skulls,
Right.
a lot of things go off in their minds.
Mhm.
I had been there before. I remember about 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
I had that in a song called Surrender. Infatuated with skull heads.
Oh, I
not
forgot
knowing you
about that.
repping death. Satan be coming, he come in disguise.
You
tricking
did
you
say
into
that.
thinking that you and God are cool, but no, it's still. I was like 15 years ago.
Yes.
Can't
I
even
forgot
remember
about
that.
that.
Yeah, I was, and it was. I saw some Christian rapper had a skull on his shirt.
Yeah.
And I was like, shh, don't you know that you're channeling demons? Not one verse I can use to defend that kind of idea.
Or that demons are connected to an object.
Yes.
We don't see that in scripture
They
at
swarm
all.
around. Yeah, for sure.
We
Yeah.
don't see that in scripture.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But I can resonate with it.
Yes, me too.
Because especially, and we were people given to conspiracies. I remember
definitely was.
the Zeitgeist film
Oh, yes.
came out
Yep.
about 9/11.
I remember. No, it wasn't Zeitgeist.
What was it
No,
called?
Zeitgeist did have something in there about 9/11.
Yeah, Zeitgeist
but there
was
was
first
also
about 9/11, the
Yep, and then
second
it had
half
a
was
whole
about
bunch
Christianity.
about Christianity
Yeah.
being false.
Yeah.
Then they had the loose change 9/11 documentary that
Sure.
everybody was into about 9/11 being an inside job.
Sure.
All of the stuff about we had Craig G. Lewis. Who played a big role in that in the black church?
That's right.
About trying to link all of hip hop to demonic,
That's right.
secret societies like the Illuminati, stuff like that. which
Absolutely.
I want to talk about that. I don't know
G.
if I'll
Craig
have
Lewis,
time,
and let me
but-
just
yeah.
for those who don't know who G. Craig Lewis
Yes.
is, and with all due respect to him,
Right.
I'm glad that a lot of you don't know who he is, because I do not think what he did was helpful at all.
Right.
And we're still here.
Yeah.
But he went on a mission to essentially end Christian hip hop as it was known.
Right.
The cross movement, the Cray. He had people burning these albums that discipled and led us to the Lord.
Right.
He was having people burn them.
Right.
As they're popping in the fire, like, woo!
Yeah.
Sound like a demon screaming. They literally thought that they were doing God's work by destroying what Christian hip hop was doing, what Christian hip hop stood for. Which, ironically, he was okay with Christians rapping over hip hop beats.
He just didn't want it to be called
He didn't want
hip-hop.
you to call it hip hop, because the
Yeah.
moment you use the phrase hip hop, you were bringing in the demonic.
Right.
That gentleman made a strong living and turned off particularly large swaths of the black church against Christian hip hop.
Yeah.
Which is also a part of the story of how Christian hip hop grew.
Right.
And found home in the evangelical space. But that's a whole nother conversation. But I remember watching Craig Lewis's take on hip hop being terrified.
Me too. Yeah.
Terrified.
Yep.
My cousins, folks in our family don't know the Lord at all. Watching Craig Lewis connect some Jay-Z song, playing it backwards, murder, Jesus, 666,
Right.
and all of these soul selling. We would hear all that and be like, oh my gosh,
Right.
like we are in trouble.
Exactly.
If fear, terror, and then also at that point you then say, well, what do we do about this? And he's like, well, buy 2-3 more of my DVDs and spread them out.
And then you'll know. Right.
for sure.
Right.
So anyways,
Yep.
Leroy Jenkins is a good link to what we want to get into today,
Right.
because it doesn't go away. Conspiracies have been with us since the beginning.
They have.
How so?
The very beginning, it's funny because even from the beginning when we had, folks like Ramesses and these kings in Egypt,
Sure.
that they even had conspiracy and fake news that they would tell about their tales of war and
Yes, yeah,
conquering. Like they back then, of course, it wasn't. We didn't have like the paper and printing press like we have now.
Sure.
But even in some of the stories that they told back then, there was a whole kind of fake news and false
Yes.
news and conspiracy
Right.
theories back
Yes.
then. Conspiracies has been here since the beginning.
Yes.
Even going before that, right? We see that folks that are conspiring to do evil have always been around.
Yes, right, that's right.
Going back to Genesis 3.
Genesis 3.
Right? We see that the serpent in the garden, not only is he conspiring against Adam and Eve and mainly conspiring against God.
That's right.
Right? But the serpent is also trying to convince Adam and Eve, that God is conspiring against them.
That's right. That's right.
That's what he does, right? Genesis 3:1, the serpent tries to accuse God of conspiring to deprive Adam and Eve, or men and women, of their greatest good.
That's right.
Why doesn't God want you to eat from the tree? You know, kind of sowing all kinds of doubt. You won't surely die if you eat from the tree.
Sure.
And intimating to them that God is keeping something good from you.
The dude that's in power,
right?
The folks who are in power have a well-organized agenda to keep good things from you, or planning to do bad things,
right? Oppress you.
To you.
Yep.
Yes.
Planning to do bad things to you, oppress you, kill you, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And so we see that kind of conspiratorial thinking from Genesis.
Right.
And the serpent gives that to Adam and Eve, kind of like, God is conspiring against y'all.
Yes, right.
And it's like, oh, we got to do something about this.
Sure.
Oh, okay, you know, and there's a lot of other things. We could talk about Adam and Eve's contentment, not being content in God, and seeing that the fruit looked tempting and thinking that would be better than what God offered. But the way that the serpent really tried to do it was that God is conspiring against y'all.
That's right. And he knew, and he also had explanation too.
Right.
Oh, he's saying that because he knows that if you were to really walk into your true purpose, you'd be a real threat. You'd be an equal. You'd be not only would you be able to fully enjoy what it means to be a human, you would be able to step into a purpose that's equal to those that are in power, and they are trying to stop you from making that happen.
Exactly.
Yes.
You'll be able to be like them. And they're trying to keep you out of that. And the irony was that he was the one actually conspiring. That's the irony of how Satan works. He convinced you that God is doing this when he's doing it.
That's right.
And so we see it there. We also see it in the New Testament. After Jesus dies, let's not forget that we had some soldiers that said, hey, go and tell the people that they stole Jesus. I mean, after he resurrected, go and tell the people that Jesus' body was stolen.
Please.
Right?
Yes.
So now we have that kind of conspiracy to try to cover things up.
Yes.
And that conspiracy actually kind of lived on a little bit. Like there were some apologists that call it the Swoon theory, I think is what it's called.
That's right.
And so, but even back, we see it in scriptures that they came up with this, okay, hold on, we can't let them think that he actually resurrected. So we need to spread that they stole the body.
He swooned.
Right.
That man was still alive in there.
He swooned.
I remember when we laid him down, I felt like I saw him jittering a little bit.
I saw him doing sit-ups.
Wasn't he wrapped in like 60 pounds of like embalming like fluid and spices and linen? Brother, you'd be suffocated. That's when you got to appeal to authority. Listen, man, I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen some crazy things. You just never know what happens when they close the tomb after we crucified a man. I guess he's right.
Oh my gosh. That is so true. I think so we see that conspiracy theories have been around forever.
Yes, sir.
And then it was funny because when you think about conspiracy theories back in the day before there was such thing as a printing press, conspiracy theories and fake news was really limited geographically.
Yes.
It kind of spread by word of mouth, but because we didn't have a large way to get out information, it kind of stayed where it was.
Sure.
And so it wasn't until really the advent of the printing press where the printing press revolutionized information, right? The printing press was like the internet back in the day.
Sure.
Right? So now everybody was getting access to information. And it boosted literacy because people couldn't really read or write back in the day either. So the printing press allowed people access to material that they could read, but it also boosted literacy. It boosted the chance of getting truth out. It did a great job at giving us things like the Bible being able to be syndicated.
Absolutely.
Other theological works, tracts, just books, things in general. The printing press was very good for us.
Right.
But there's always another side of the coin. The printing press also made it very easy for fake news and conspiracy to spread. Disinformation to spread.
Yes, sir.
And so, and that also spread with the printing press. And so we had, even in those times, we had conspiracies, we had truth, but then in the advent of I would call the second kind of printing press, in my opinion, like the technological printing press, the internet.
Yes, sir.
The internet made conspiracy and fake news explode, right? Now we are in the information age where, as you know, we now have more access in 2023 to information than anybody ever has in the history of civilization.
Wow.
When you really think about that, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, staggering.
That in your pocket, you take out this thing right here.
Yes.
And you can almost find any information on anything you want like this.
Yes.
Like this.
Yes.
This, you go back to the Dark Ages, or
Sure.
you go back to when the printing press had come about, the inception of it, they wouldn't have imagined that we had something like
Absolutely.
this. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes.
And so because this has done a lot of great things. We
Yes.
have a podcast because of this. We can preach the gospel in ways that we couldn't because of the internet.
Absolutely.
The internet has made people millionaires and billionaires. It
Sure.
has given people access, but the internet has also, on that other side of the coin, been a place where fake news and conspiracy theories have spread like wildfire.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And so with that being the case, I think that the reason that we're addressing this again is because I think that we find conspiracy theories to be something that will constantly dog us as long as there's information being spread
Sure.
in amongst human civilization.
Yes.
And I think it's something that we should return to every now and then as believers, because one of the things that we've seen is that some of the biggest spreaders of conspiracy have been Christians.
Yeah.
And whether that's them embracing conspiracy through like a Facebook group,
Yep.
or them watching some kind of fringe DVD or documentary or
Sure,
YouTube,
sure.
we've spread it. So how do we define
Why
conspiracy?
do you think
Uh-huh.
that Christians,
Right.
obviously, maybe it's not fair to say that they're more that we can be more susceptible
Mhm.
to conspiracies.
Mhm.
But at least in our world,
Right.
there seems to be, particularly in the last 3 years,
Yeah.
conspiracies are oftentimes at home in Christian circles in ways that it even feels like it supersedes the general population.
Yeah. I mean,
Why do you think that is?
I think, well, first of all, how do we define like conspiracy, right? And then
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to answer that. The way I define conspiracy is a well-organized effort initiated by like an elite group,
Yes.
right, of powerful men or women that are secretly working towards a singular goal or vision that often involves collaboration between government agencies and the media.
Sure.
Right? And so that's so that's what I'm thinking about conspiracy, right?
Right.
One of the reasons that I think that Christians are susceptible to conspiracy is because I think that we understand that there is a larger conspiracy of evil happening in the world because
Yeah.
of Satan.
It is built into our worldview.
It's built into our worldview that
that's
there
crystal clear to us.
And it's true.
Yes.
There is an evil enemy that is conspiring against
God
the
of
people
this
of
world
God
is
and
blinding
the
the
God
mind.
of the Bible says that the God of this world, talking about Satan, lowercase g, is blinding people from seeing the truth, right? And deceiving people.
Right.
So we understand that there is that there is an evil conspiracy at play
Agenda.
with the enemy. There's an evil agenda at play, not just for the people of God, but for God's world in general.
Yeah.
Like the Bible makes it very clear that Satan is a liar. All he
Yes.
wants to do is destroy. He wants to kill.
Yes.
That's what he wants to do. And we look at that and we say that is what he is conspiring to do
Sure.
in God's world.
Sure.
And so we understand that there is a reality in which a conspiracy of evil
Yes.
is upon us,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so, but I think that because we have that worldview, we are always looking of where we can find it in ways that, like I say, we look at the demonic as the most sensational.
That's right.
So and I don't think that Satan works that way.
Sure.
I mean, he does, but I don't think that he primarily works through the sensational. Horns, pitchforks,
That's
666,
right.
demon possession,
Yes.
agenda. Like, I don't think that he
Baby
comes.
blood.
Right, baby blood. I don't think that he comes with fangs and horns and a pitchfork. I think that he mainly comes like in a way that you would not expect.
That's right.
Right.
And often just riding the back of your own
weaknesses, your
dark
own
desires.
sins, your own desires.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's
That's
and
what
he's
James says.
and he yep.
Is
go ahead.
that not where conflict of James? The book of James says that where does conflict come among you? Where's conflict springing up from among you? Is it not your competing desires?
Yes. And Satan knows that.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that we have to remember is that he's been doing this a long time.
Yeah, long time.
Long
Running
right?
laps.
And so he understands human nature better than we understand
Right.
human nature. And I think that because of that, he knows how to kind of influence it, right?
Yeah.
However, and as we said in the Satanic Panic episode,
Right.
I mean, Satan is not dumb.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So I think that in his, kind of ability to deceive,
Yes.
he will have you believing that you are fighting against him while doing things that would be displeasing to God.
Yes.
So you will be at the Capitol building with the Jesus is my savior, Trump is my president symbol.
Yeah.
But storming the Capitol and chanting "Hang Mike Pence,"
Yes.
and think that you are doing God's work,
yes,
when you're not.
Yes.
Or you will be going to the pizza shop in Washington, D.C. with an AR-15, thinking that you are saving children from a secret cabal that's ran by Podesta and Hillary Clinton, a pedophile ring,
yes,
shooting into the Washington, D.C. place, thinking that you are there on mission of God against Satan, and you are not.
That's right.
You are being deceived.
And can I just, this is we are here to pick Ameen's brain on this today. I do, so I'm gonna speak
go ahead.
very tersely. But I do want to say this, bro. I think a part of the other part of why we feel, I think Christians are often, I hate to say more susceptible.
Right.
But at least equally susceptible.
We have a worldview that would make us open to the idea that conspiracies are running
It
amok.
is clear to us
Right.
that the devil is busy working literally behind the scenes in a interdimensional way.
Right.
That there's a spiritual realm
Absolutely.
that is at play.
Absolutely.
That we see weaving in and out of real life. Jesus
Right.
looks at Peter and says, "Get behind me,
Right.
Satan."
Yes.
Though there was no
and yeah.
there was like there wasn't like there was like some like there was a demon walking by,
Right.
like that baby in Passion of the
Exactly.
Christ. He wasn't holding that baby in the Passion of the Christ. No, this was a man who is at this. It was all the way here on earth in the physical realm, being used by something behind the scenes.
Right.
The devil.
Yep.
But I also think that a part of our worldview also includes the uniqueness of being loved by God
Mm-hmm.
in a special way.
Right.
So you are a chosen people, a chosen priesthood.
Right.
There is, you've been made sons and daughters. You are no longer servants and slaves, like how most people in the ancient Near East related to God was through servanthood, slavery.
Right.
Jesus says, you are more than that for us.
Right.
You are adopted. You are friends, right? That gives us, which it should,
Right.
insulating privilege.
Right.
Grace, as famously said by T.D. Jakes,
Yeah.
favor ain't fair.
Right.
There is a uniqueness of what it means to know Jesus, and you feel empowered by that unique identity. You feel in house. You feel like I'm in the know. Even in your churches. That's what churches start turning to like gangland. But like over here at this
First
Baptist church,
right.
First Baptist of the North Creek, we do it like this. And our pastor in our church, and
Right.
that there's a uniqueness of being in.
Yep.
And that's what conspiracies give us too.
Yep. Yeah.
Is that I have access to something that all you sheep don't see.
Conspiracy makes you feel like you have special knowledge.
Yeah.
And because you have special knowledge, and because you have special knowledge, like you said, it makes you like, I'm really in the know and everybody else is being sheep. They're being fooled, and they're being fooled by the mainstream media.
We are people of special revelation.
That's are people of special revelation.
A phrase that we use to describe ourselves.
Yes, and there's something within us that is sinful that wants to be special.
That's right.
That wants to be that wants to be set apart and different from everybody else.
Sure.
And there's something also in us that wants to belong to a community of people that look like us, think like us, talk like us, where we feel like we have a home.
Right.
And conspiracy theory communities could give that to you.
That's right.
That's why you have a QAnon's quote is where we go one, we go all. Right.
Yeah,
that's community language.
Yes.
Right. That's why they all can show up to a Capitol riot or some other thing, and they all have the shirts on and the flags, and you know what I mean. Like it's a real community.
Right.
And so and if we're looking for that, we are communal people.
Yeah, we were made for it. But it's ripe for exploitation.
Exactly.
Because it feels right. I'm here. All of us are standing against the power.
And we are standing where not only are we all here and we're all fighting, but we're fighting for something that seems bigger than us.
Yes.
It's a whole system that we're fighting against.
Right.
We have to do this as a people. We have to do this. We have to feel like the soldiers from 300. We all have to come back and take this thing down.
Yes.
And I think that we're wired that way because God has wired us to be community people.
Right.
And he has mainly wired us to be those people that are working in community with one another against the kingdom of Satan.
Yes.
Right? We are ambassadors for God that are being used to push back against the kingdom of darkness.
Right.
I just think that some of the ways in which folks tend to contextualize the kingdom of darkness is in some of these conspiracies that happen to not be true. Right. And so, but this is the thing that I will say is that conspiracies, though, are not all untrue. So people can talk about conspiracy, and as soon as they hear it, they roll their eyes. Yeah. But there is conspiracy that is true. Number one, we talked about one conspiracy that's true, which is the spiritual conspiracy that Satan is on against the kingdom of God. Yes. But there are real life, on the ground, contextualized conspiracies that have been true. Watergate was a conspiracy that was true.
Yep, and it was true. And there were people that were blowing the whistle on that.
And people were saying that this is ridiculous.
You're crazy. There's no way they'd be involved in that.
The president is definitely not. There's no way that they're colluding against the Democratic National Committee. What are you talking about? They were breaking in, but it ended up being true, right? But another conspiracy, the mafia, the Italian mafia, La Cosa Nostra, this thing of ours. Yes. People were telling folks that, hey, there's this underground criminal organization that is ran like freaking Fortune 500 business of these Italian mafia guys that are knee deep in exploiting folks. They're knee deep in extorting people. Sure. They have connections to big multi-billion-dollar construction companies. Yes. They have connections to police departments. Yes. And that people were like, "You're crazy. What are you talking about?" Yes. And then it ended up being true. And honestly, it got taken down really in New York City, mainly by Giuliani. Sure, that's where we got the RICO Act from. Is because of that. The thing that they're taking down rappers with now, gangs with now.
Freeway Rick Ross.
Yep, Freeway Rick Ross. Well, the Iran-Contra scandal ended up being a conspiracy that was true. Right. That you had
insane to think that our government would be
government is involved
in flooding drugs into neighborhoods so drug dealers can sell them, make money, and then they can seize that money to pay for a war.
To pay for guerrilla warfare somewhere else, right? So, and then Freeway Rick Ross.
Come on, nobody's doing that.
Right. And we see that. If any of y'all watch Snowfall, the show on FX, that's exactly what you see happening with the main character and the white guy that's working for the CIA. Yeah. That is the Iran-Contra scandal. You see it in there. He's taking that money, funding the guerrilla warfare, all of that. That ended up being true.
Yes.
Big tobacco. The whole conspiracy around big tobacco when cigarettes first came out, everybody was smoking cigarettes. Tobacco companies were literally paying these scientists like all of this money to come out with these studies that were saying that tobacco did not cause cancer. Sure. That were saying that tobacco was not bad for you.
Sure.
And that got blown to pieces by, guess what? Like the mainstream media.
Absolutely.
Actual journalists that were doing research, and they exposed that these big tobacco companies were paying these doctors and these scientists to take out ads and say that tobacco's not as bad as it was, to push back against other scientists, to say that tobacco was causing cancer, to say that it wasn't causing cancer when there were scientists saying that there were.
Yep.
Like in the beginning, that all got, and then they got taken to court, and that's why on cigarette packages now there's the Surgeon General warning on the back that says this may cause cancer. That happened because big tobacco was trying to tell people that it wasn't. They got taken to court for it, and they got found out that they actually were conspiring to say that it wasn't. And the government was like, "No, this is false, and you need to recognize it. And now you need to put all of this on these packages of cigarettes." And so I think that there are conspiracies that are true, but conspiracies that are true are proven by objective empirical evidence.
That's right. Yeah, I want you to continue to help us tread through the waters of conspiracies. I love that you have started us off by helping us recognize that just because somebody has said something is true that is not widely accepted doesn't mean that what they're saying is untrue.
Right.
Because something is conspiratorial does not mean it is automatically wrong.
Does not mean it is automatically untrue.
Thank you for saying that.
Yes.
Because if that was the case, we'd have to throw out everything before. Every single thing that was exposed from COINTELPRO to Tuskegee to Watergate, we have to throw all of that out until there was
it became popular opinion. Right. So I'm not saying...
it was irrefutably... The evidence was overwhelming. But if you were in the Tuskegee medical trials where they were allowing people to die by not giving them the proper vaccinations that they need, and you went home to your family after not being served as you should.
Right.
And you're saying, I went here, I think, given the way that they treated us in comparison to how they treated those that were with us, there's something there.
Right.
There's a there there.
There's a there.
We're not saying that is inappropriate unless there's been a full-out investigation, because we have to start somewhere.
We have to start. That's where investigation starts.
Right.
Investigation starts by saying something doesn't look right. It's not widely accepted.
Right.
Somebody has to come to the forefront and say, hey, this is happening, or at least it seems that this is happening.
Yes.
We should investigate this.
Yes.
Right? So just because you have this belief that may not be widely accepted, like you said, it doesn't automatically mean that it is untrue.
That's right.
But there are a lot of beliefs that may not be widely accepted that have definitely been disproven, and folks will continue to hold on to it because it's fringe. And so, well, I think that we'll get to that. But when we talk about, conspiracy theories, I'm talking about stuff like false flag attacks, the ideas about deep state, QAnon, Illuminati, shadow government, stuff like that, New World Order, all that kind of stuff. And so I think that there's a great book that everyone should get by Cindy L. Otis. Okay. I use a lot of her stuff even in this episode. I think I'll depend on her a little bit. But she has a book called it's called True or False. And she's an ex-CIA analyst. Right. And she's a millennial, too. She's young, but she knows what she's talking about. Ex-CIA analyst, and she has a great book called True or False, and she takes all that skill that she learned as a CIA analyst and teaches folks. And it's actually, the book is very accessible. It's not dense. Yeah. It's actually very entertaining. She has great exercises in there to help you recognize bias and all of that stuff from news articles and everything. She gives a lot of empirical evidence and a lot of source material in there. But I recommend everyone get it, because it's a guide to being able to spot fake news and conspiracy. And I think that one of the things about conspiracy, and I think the reason why we have to talk about conspiracy is because we as Christians are those who claim to be the vanguards of truth. That's right. So if we are vanguards of truth, then we need to be people that are truthful and that can be trusted, and have credibility when it comes to telling the truth. Big, bro. And what happens, though, is that when Christians find themselves wrapped up in conspiracy that isn't true, we lose credibility. Absolutely. And we become very gullible. And gullibility, as Ed Stetzer said, is not a Christian virtue. It's not a Christian virtue for us to be gullible. Yeah. It's not a Christian virtue for, because something is given to us or because something already matches what we believe, as soon as we hear it, we just take it or it's an article that seems to believe what we believe, and we just share it. Yes. Well, it was funny because there was a study that showed that the majority of folks, like on Twitter and I think also Facebook, that were sharing articles, never opened the article that they shared. They were sharing articles just from the headline itself. Yes. Which headlines is one of the main ways that folks are deceived by fake news, by the way. But and to your point, can I read Isaiah 8:12? Yes, read Isaiah 8:12.
Gullibility is not a fruit of spirit.
It's not.
It's a fruit of immaturity. Yep. Isaiah 8:12 literally says, "Do not call conspiracy everything."
This is what is being said
the word of
in
God.
The scriptures.
Do not call conspiracy everything that this or these people call conspiracies. Do not fear what they fear, and do not dread what they dread. Right. That the idea here is that you would not just be a reflection, an echo to where everybody on QAnon is exactly where you are. Right. Everybody on every major fear is exactly where you stand as well. Yep. You should, in some ways, bring something to the table that defies the fear, because you walk with the living God. And if you do not, how can you be credible? As you just said, Meansy, if you spent 8 months between February 2020 to November 2020 telling people that COVID wasn't real, that they've made this up, people aren't dying, and you're retweeting empty hospitals. Right. these strange connections of graveyards, saying this picture wasn't taken this year.
Right.
It isn't overran with bodies.
Right.
They aren't actually running out of room at hospitals. People in your life who are in the medical field are coming up to you saying, like my sister, Damalek Gutierrez, who went to Texas, worked on the border in the middle of the pandemic, and said that they would be exhausted, nurses outside in tears because of all the people that they buried a day. They were burying 50 people from COVID a day. They ran out of freezer space, morgue space. And you know this person. You do not know these people on QAnon. And this sister, cousin, aunt, mom, dad, doctor is telling you it's bad out here. But you still listen to Alex Jones. If you did that and you told these people that COVID really wasn't an issue, and then you want to follow it up in December 2020 with the greatest story ever told, Jesus came into this world to save sinners. If I couldn't trust what you said and how hard you went in the face of all rational, responsible discourse and action concerning COVID, if I couldn't get with you there, how now am I supposed to get with you on the truth of Jesus?
Exactly.
A liar is a liar is a liar is a liar. And so you should be very careful that you have not been a part of anything that would weaken your ability to point to the truthfulness of the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. Conspiracies on one level is connected to your witness.
It is.
And how it will be sullied or propped up is credible.
And as you said in our last episode in Conspiracy that we did maybe, 2 years ago almost? You have to look at your witness as a magazine that has a certain amount of bullets.
That's right.
And once they're all gone, it's gone, bro. And a lot of folks will waste their bullets on conspiracy.
That's right.
Conspiracy theories. What and folks can say, well, what do you mean? Why are y'all talking about this? There is a I'm not trying to be political, but we have to be honest about the reality of what we saw.
Sure.
One of the things that we have to ask ourselves is, why is it that at something like the January 6th Capitol riots, there was a large swath of QAnon people there that also claimed to be Christian?
Why?
There were several folks there with Jesus Save signs. Jesus is my savior, Trump is my president with Q logos. That there is a large evangelical Christian presence that is linked with QAnon conspiracy theories, New World Order conspiracy theories, all of these other conspiracy theories that you could think of. I just got done talking to KB about there was a Christian rapper out there that I saw recently that was talking about conspiracy in one of their songs. I mean, literally rapping conspiracy that you would hear from QAnon or Alex Jones while also talking about Jesus. There is this syncretism that I have seen with Christians syncing their gospel truth with conspiracy theories from InfoWars or from QAnon
or Hebrew Israelites
or Hebrew Israel. Yeah, that's true too. Or stuff that you just see on 4chan or 8chan or on Instagram or on these fringe YouTube pages or all of these different things. And in some ways, some people could actually start infiltrating their gospel and their biblical ethics kind of witness with conspiracy, with kind of like this, they kind of look at them pushing back against the kingdom of darkness with the gospel as the same thing as pushing back against the conspiracies that they believe is happening in God's world.
That is the work of the ministry.
So that is the work of the ministry, that I'm going to talk to you about repenting and turning away from your sins. I'm going to talk to you about not letting Satan deceive you into following after your desires and the flesh and the evil things of this world. And I'm also going to tell you about how there's a secret cabal of people that are harvesting children's blood, trying to get adrenochrome and harvesting children's blood. Or I'm also going to tell you that there's a whole bunch of secret societies at work, and there's a new world order, and it gets kind of synced with all of your gospel presentation and gospel truths.
Right.
And we have to be very careful with that
Yes.
because there's a lot of that conspiracy that is not only not proven true, but has been debunked and totally and completely unfounded.
Yes.
And when you are going out into the world of individuals who are actually doing some of this research and
Yes.
see that,
Yes.
they as you said, how am I going to trust anything that you're saying to me about Jesus when you're also telling me that there's a secret cabal of people harvesting children's blood?
That's right.
So
that they can live
So that
longer.
they can live longer, or
Yeah.
or have some kind of psychedelic trip, right?
Yeah.
And that you don't even understand that idea of that thing goes back to anti-Semitic, Jews doing blood libel.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so when you're pushing Kanye West is a great example. When you're on here, I mean, he's being anti-Semitic, but when you're pushing all these conspiracies and
Sure.
then also at the same time want people to believe what you're saying about God,
Yes.
how could we?
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things that we have to remember is that one thing is this. Conspiracy theories are attractive. We talked about this before.
Yeah.
Usually with conspiracy theory stories are sophisticated. It makes you feel like you have this top secret, deep level knowledge that
Yes.
nobody else has. It's almost like reading a great fictional mystery
Yes.
investigation book.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But you have to ask yourself, is this true? Think about all of the conspiracy theories that we've heard. The conspiracy theory chief extraordinaire, Alex Jones,
Yes.
just got convicted in court. He has to pay $1.4 billion in damages
Yes.
to these families of Sandy Hook because for years, 10 plus years, he was pushing an idea that Sandy Hook was a false flag operation and that it didn't really happen.
Yes.
And that all of these families who had their children murdered and were on TV talking about it were paid crisis actors.
Wow.
And again and again and again and again and again, it had been debunked over and over and
Yes.
over and
Yes.
over again. Literally, the videos that InfoWars was putting up saying, look at this person on CNN. Here's the crisis actor, and the crisis act, like they would show that this crisis actor was a real actor. And he's like, that's not me.
Yeah.
I'm the guy. I'm the guy
I'm
that
the
you're saying
crisis
that this
actor.
person is. That's
That
not
was
me.
not me talking
Right.
there.
Look at here's another picture. We look nothing alike.
And they paid you to do that.
Right.
They paid you to say
right.
that.
And
Yeah.
so you have to ask yourself, Alex Jones is giving you all this conspiracy, and then at the end of it, it's trying to sell you vitamin D InfoWars supplements. What do you think that is really going on here?
Sure.
Right. And so and then you got to ask yourself, what has become of the Pizzagate conspiracy? And I'm saying this because I knew Christians at the time that people were talking about this. I
Yeah.
saw
One of my
Christians
good
that I
friends.
knew
Yep.
spreading it.
Yes.
Spreading it online,
Yeah.
posting memes about it on Instagram,
Pizza emojis.
Yeah, but all of that stuff. Facebook talking, posting all like kind of endorsing all these conspiracies, and then you have this one individual that goes to the pizza shop in DC, shoots into it, gets arrested by the police. And there's no child pedophile ring being ran in this pizza shop.
Yes.
And then he comes out and says, "Man, I really thought," and he thought that he was doing it for God. When he gave his message that he was going to DC, he backed it with all kind of biblical scripture.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, he said, "Man, I was really deceived."
Yeah.
And he started questioning what he believed, which you should.
Right.
And so a lot of conspiratorial thinking, it changes the way that you think till you start seeing everything as conspiracy,
Yeah.
right? So what conspiracy theories are is they're attractive, and we gotta, again, as we said in the last episode, truth is usually more boring.
Yeah, that's right.
So we want a thrill, we want adventure.
Yes.
Conspiracy takes you on an adventure. It also helps us make sense of chaotic world events. It's something we said last time.
That's a big one, though.
Yes.
I think, especially of people of the book,
Right.
and you're trying to map what John was writing in Revelation to what's
onto
happening
what
right
is
now.
happening right now.
People thought
John
that
is not
Martin
writing a
Luther was the
newspaper.
Antichrist.
Right.
Folks thought that the Pope was the Antichrist. People thought Obama was the Antichrist.
Right.
Hillary Clinton. Every single generation is trying to map who the end of times characters are to what they see
and
around
every
them.
generation you'll see them doing it.
Yes.
Every generation you'll see them mapping what is happening in this world to the end times.
Yes.
World War I, mapped to the end times.
Right.
World War II, mapped to the end times.
Yes.
Right? Vietnam for some
to
people.
stupid stuff like fingerprinting.
fingerprinting.
Recognition.
I remember when Apple first started doing the fingerprint to unlock your phone, people were mapping that to the mark of the beast.
Sure.
Mapping that to the end times. Mapping that to them trying to get, you see it. Every major world event is usually trying to be mapped to the end times, or every major world event, there's conspiracy behind it. You can literally look it up. You can literally, there's conspiracy behind 9/11, conspiracy around World War I, World War II,
Sure.
conspiracy around Sandy Hook, conspiracy around Obama being president.
Yes.
Conspiracy around Trump not getting elected president again.
Sure.
Conspiracy around COVID.
Sure.
There's always in all these world
what
events
folks
conspiracies.
are trying to do is make sense of it in a way that feels good to them.
Gives them, because we do not like knowing that there's something chaotic happening and we don't know why.
That's right.
When we have answers, it helps us feel better.
That's right.
There may not be nothing that can be done about it, but at least we know what's going on.
But you are biased to the answers that are shaped like you, though.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about that.
There you go. Come on.
We're going to talk about that.
Take us, Ameen.
So what I was going to say is, one of the things that we have to consider when it comes to conspiracy theory is that there is a difference between, or let's just think about it like this. As Christians, we see, I would say, in the book of Acts 17:11 with the Bereans, the ways that Christians should treat everything.
Come on, sir.
And they did it with scripture.
Yeah.
So if they did it with scripture,
yes,
this is a less than greater than argument. If the Bereans did this with the Bible,
that's right.
What makes you think that we should not be doing the same thing with everything else?
Yes.
So after Paul and Silas got done preaching the gospel,
yes,
right? We see that in Acts 17:11, it says, now these Jews who just received this gospel from Paul and Silas were more noble than those in Thessalonica. They received the word with all eagerness, examining the scriptures daily to see if these things were so.
Yes.
So here's Paul and Silas preaching this gospel to these folks in Berea. They were in Thessalonica preaching the gospel in the synagogues. They converted some Gentiles too, but a lot of the Jews hated that they were preaching the gospel, and they had to get out of the city because persecution was coming. Right. They go to Berea, preach the gospel. They receive the word with a little bit more gladness.
Right.
But the author of Acts, Luke, he points out, hey, these Bereans were actually more noble than those of Thessalonica in that they received it, but they also received the word with eagerness, and they examined the scriptures day and night to see if these things were true.
Wow.
They did not just take Paul and Silas's word for what was being said.
Right.
They were saying, no, we got to verify. We have to verify what they are saying.
Right.
They're telling us that this Jesus is the savior of the world that the Old Testament was talking about. Let us open the scriptures and see if what they said holds up. And it did.
Yes.
We need to take that same approach to truth with anything that we do.
That's right.
We need to be able to be like the Bereans, not only with the scriptures.
Right.
When you're hearing people teach the Bible, you need to search the truth of the scriptures to see if it's true. But when you're being told any kind of information, you need to verify that mug.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And not just gullibly kind of just like accept it and drink it down.
Yes.
Now, so one of the things that we have to remember in pursuing truth in an information age, so and what I wanted to say is that we have to be, as Christians and as people in general, we have to be very intentional about pursuing truth in a way in which we verify it in the digital age that we live in now, because we are in an age now when conspiracy and fake news has spread more than any other time in history.
Wow,
and
wow.
a lot of us live on the internet.
That's right.
We have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, we read articles online. A lot of us get our information on the internet.
That's right.
We do.
Right.
And so we cannot deny the fact that a lot of us are web-based people.
Yeah.
But by being web-based people, you are getting web-based information, and there's a lot of web-based information that is conspiratorial and false.
That's right.
And if we are going to be people of the internet, which we are,
yes.
I mean, we just, and then those are after
Can't
us
shake it.
even more so.
Sure.
We have to teach people how to actually have what we call like informational literacy. You have to be, just like you need literacy to read anything, you need informational literacy on the internet. You have to be able to understand, how do I differentiate between what I'm reading on the internet that is true and what is false?
Yes.
And if I don't know if it's true or false, I don't take a position on it.
That's right. That's right.
Or I say, this is my opinion,
Or
but
I
it's
at
not
least
fact.
don't share it.
And I at least don't share
Because you
it.
could say, man, I can see how you can make that point. And I can see some of the connections that you're making in terms of whatever the situation is.
Right.
But until you have verified it, because the reputation of my ability to be trusted means more to me than sharing this to show fealty and solidarity with my group. Because let me just
say it. Go ahead, brother.
Let me just say, fam.
Go ahead, brother.
When you are developing informational literacy, which is a powerful phrase.
Yes.
In everything that you do, that you could be engaging with something that could change, ruin, or greatly benefit your life.
Right.
Something of great power, you have to approach it with a strategy, with training, with discipline, with maturity.
Right.
You can't just hold fire with your bare hands.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
We're talking about something of great power, of great influence.
Right.
That's what information is. You have to have literacy in your engagement of it. One way that you can discern whether or not something is true or false is not that the people that I follow online think it's true.
We're gonna talk about that.
Go ahead.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that you said that. Hold that, because I want you to speak more to
Please.
that. I think that you're totally right, and we have to learn informational literacy.
Yes.
Because this is the thing about misinformation. Misinformation. I think who said this is Mori Rappler.
Okay.
Mori Rappler is the journalist who was taking down Duterte in the Philippines. The Philippines, if anybody knows, is rife with fake news.
Absolutely.
Duterte is running the media there.
Great documentary on her on
There's
Frontline.
a great documentary on Frontline that y'all should watch about Mori Rappler and Duterte in the Philippines. Please watch it, because you can see him be a fake news disseminator extraordinaire.
Yes.
And the main way that they disseminate a lot of fake news is, again, Facebook, Instagram, fake articles, all of these things. Mori Rappler said something that was amazing. She said misinformation and disinformation is like a drug. It may not harm you the first time you take it, but if you keep taking it, it changes who you are. And we have all, we have not heard testimonies of that people that said they had a great relationship with their family members until they got on like a QAnon thing, or they went down a conspiracy rabbit hole, and then it changed literally who they were.
That's right.
I literally,
the father in Parkland. There's a father whose child was in the Parkland high school shooting.
Yes.
And he doesn't believe his own child.
Vice interviewed the child from the actual Parkland shooting. His father believes that the Parkland shooting was like some kind of false flag operation.
Sure.
He was, and his own son, again, was there in it.
Yes.
And he doubts his own son.
Yeah.
Like, even when his son is saying, "What are you, Dad? My friends that I knew were murdered. They're dead.
We went to
How
their
are
funerals.
you telling me
We
that?
buried them.
How are you telling me that this is some kind of false flag operation?" And his dad is like, "Oh, well, you're just a part of it. You just don't know it." All kind of crazy stuff. And he said it destroyed my relationship with my father.
Right.
I just listened to a great podcast called American Radical.
Yeah.
Everyone should listen to it. American Radical is a podcast in which it goes into the January 6th Capitol Hill riot, right? And there is a woman who was just this regular woman, lived her regular life.
Yeah.
And had friends and family and all of that. And then she started getting put on little by little to kind of conspiracy theories via YouTube. Like some friend was sharing it with her. Then before you knew it, she was looking at more and more and more and more of these conspiracy. As we call it, she went down the rabbit hole.
Sure.
And as she went down the rabbit hole, she became a full-blown QAnon conspiracy theorist, to the point that all of her family were like, yo, every time we meet with her, she comes to a Thanksgiving, a Christmas event, anything.
Yeah.
All she wants to do is talk to us about Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, the Q crumbs that are being dropped, this evil cabal of this pedophile sex ring.
Yeah.
Like, she's constantly just trying to basically evangelize the family in conspiracies.
Yes.
Where it caused a fracture with her and her family relationships. She ends up going to the Capitol riot, going there with a lot of other QAnon supporters. She gets trampled to death and she dies. But her family is left to pick up the pieces of what this conspiracy theories did to their daughter.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I think Mori Rappler gets at, is that if you drink enough misinformation and conspiracy down, it starts to change who you are. Wow. I have brothers that I know that we were all like clicked up on the gospel. We literally did ministry together.
Right.
I watched one brother that I know get on stage when he was preaching the gospel and went into a full-blown conspiracy-laden gospel presentation.
Yeah.
And his presentation wasn't really about the gospel.
Yeah, it wasn't
he was
about
on
Jesus.
stage talking
It was
about the new world order.
Yes.
Right? I met with this brother one-on-one. We had a conversation because he had some things to say about my views on race in America.
Yeah.
We had a conversation, and in his conversation, it was full of conspiracy.
Yeah.
He was he talked about how we should not be depending upon the wisdom of man, but we should get everything that we believe from the scriptures.
Yeah.
When we left the conversation, he said, I was talking to him about certain books he should read, all of that. He was like, no, we need to get all of this stuff from the scriptures. I said, hey, and he was like, we shouldn't be listening to CNN or whatever. And when we were leaving that conversation, I said, hey, do you listen to Alex Jones? And he said, yes.
Yes, because you were definitely on YouTube.
And so I was like, well, how do you listen to Alex Jones when you said I shouldn't? And he had this whole justification for why.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is that this brother was not that brother 10 years ago.
Yeah.
He's somebody completely different now due to conspiracy.
It's like what pyramid schemes did to people, right?
It's kind of like a psychological pyramid scheme of information.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. Turns your friends into freaking pyramid scheme extraordinaires. All that, and so when you would get up with your friend and y'all would eat burritos and talk about life, now your friend gets up and he wants to sell you knives from Amway.
Yeah, that's right. And
that's all he wants to do.
And you know you can make money off of this,
right?
I work with this guy Steve. He drives a Corvette. He's doing just fine,
right? But are you driving a Corvette? But either way, so I wanted to say that it's about information literacy.
That's real good.
So this is the thing: when we are talking about information literacy, it is good to understand the difference between fact and opinion. That's what we need to understand now that we're in this pool of information that we're swimming through constantly every day. Fact can be proven through either observation or experimentation.
Sure.
For example, there's a fact. The fact is that the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west.
Right.
What makes that a fact? You can get your behind up out of bed early in the morning and you can go outside and you can see that mug where you get a compass and you can see it happen every day.
Right.
It is a fact.
Yes.
Regardless of what y'all cats want to say.
Fact.
Right. It's regardless of what cats. I know that some of this conspiracies out there that the earth is round.
That's right. Yeah.
How do you know? You could, if you had enough money, you could actually take your behind the space and see that the earth is round.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's
flat.
a circle.
Right. And we're not falling off the edge of this mug.
Right.
We just walking to the edge of earth and then now we're walking upside down on the other side of it. But so there's a whole nother thing. I mean, there are facts that could be tested, prove it's just a fact.
Sure.
Then you have opinion.
Yes.
Opinion is something that you believe, think, or feel.
That's
now
right.
you could also believe in a fact.
Yes.
But opinion usually has a lot to do with beliefs, and it usually has a lot to do with what you think or you feel. A lot of the times you can't prove an opinion, and someone can have an opinion that is opposite of yours. So for instance, someone could say Cheesecake Factory has the best cheesecakes in the world.
Right.
That is an opinion.
That's an opinion.
Right? There is no...
It's also objectively false.
Right?
Sorry, Cheesecake Factory.
There's
We'll take your
no...
sponsorship.
Yeah, I would say Junior's in Brooklyn. No. But there's no universal kind of standard of measurement for what is the greatest cheesecake in the world,
Sure.
right? So whatever you think, that statement is going to be based upon personal preference.
Sure.
Right? Now, this is as Cindy L. Otis said, this is a facts about facts. Number one, facts are statements that you can and should verify.
Yes.
That's number one.
Yes.
Two, they're not based really on a belief or a feeling.
Yes.
So a fact is true whether you believe it or feel it's true or not. Again, a lot of times facts don't try to argue in favor or convince the reader of a particular position at times. It's just like what it is.
Yeah.
It could be proven through experimentation or observation. It's true regardless of what someone personally thinks about them. Usually facts use precise language of measurement or dates, locations, or numbers, and they tend to stay away from absolutes at times, like everybody, always, never, no one.
Yes.
And unless those things can actually be measured or proven that it is always or never, right? Now, opinions are usually, these are facts about opinions, feelings, views, thoughts, judgments, and beliefs that you cannot verify.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
Sometimes based on a person's interpretation or analysis of facts. That's something that we need to grasp. Sometimes an opinion is based upon someone's interpretation or analysis of actual facts.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, yeah.
And then they present it as a conclusion.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean it's fact. It's still an opinion, right? So we can be fooled into thinking that an opinion is a fact when it's presented as a declarative statement. Sure. So for instance, somebody could say Paris is the most beautiful place in Europe.
Yeah.
Right? That's presented as a declarative statement.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's not factual though.
That's right.
That's
right.
really, it's still an opinion.
Yes.
So
And you may have an amazing argument for
Right.
why your opinion is
it
true.
may be very informed.
Yeah.
It could be an informed opinion.
Yes.
It may be an amazing argument that you could give for why, but it really still is an opinion.
Right.
Because somebody else can say, I actually don't think Paris is the most beautiful place.
Right.
I think I don't know, Berlin is, or I think Spain is, right?
Yeah.
They could say any number of things like that. But it does, when it gets presented as a declarative statement, it has the same self-assuredness as Paris is the capital of France.
Sure.
Right? That's a fact.
Yeah.
So Paris is the most beautiful place, in Europe.
Yeah.
Paris is the capital of France. All declarative statements, but one is a fact, one is an opinion. And so it states the declarative statement could state an opinion in a way that sounds true, but it's not actually a fact, right? So I could say Godfather is the greatest movie of all time.
Yes.
Not a fact. So sometimes opinions are presented as an argument in favor of one thing or the other, right? That could be backed by facts, right? A lot of times, sometimes opinions cannot be proven. Someone can have an opposite view of some of opinions at times. Sometimes you use buzzwords like I think, you should, I feel, I believe.
Yes.
That's usually equated with opinions. Sometimes opinions use judgmental language like that includes like the best or the worst, right? And then often they can use absolutes like everybody, always, never, and no one.
Yeah.
So it might look simple. It might be simple to think that, man, it's easy to separate fact from opinion. Like I know a fact and I know an opinion.
Right.
But a Pew Research study from 2018, they asked 5,000 adults in America to take a survey, bro. The participants were shown 10 statements and asked to identify which were a fact and which were opinions, regardless of whether they agreed with the statements or not. Only 26% of the respondents could actually properly classify all the facts, where 35% could properly classify all the opinions. People were much better at identifying opinions than they were at identifying the facts.
Right.
The surveys counted any time that a participant skipped the question as a failure to choose a correct answer. So that means that the majority of Americans actually could not reliably tell the difference between opinions and facts, bro.
Sure.
And the question is, why is this so difficult?
Yes.
One of the reasons that this is so difficult is because, one, politics. A study also found that regardless of someone's political party, what political party the participants belonged to, they were more likely to say a statement was a fact when it appealed to their political beliefs.
Yeah, for sure.
And they were more likely to classify it as an opinion when it was something that they disagreed with.
Sure.
So what we are already seeing is that one of the ways in which a lot of Americans identify fact versus opinion is whether or not I already agree with it or not.
Yes, that's
which
right.
comes from bias.
Yes.
Right? And so that gets to what you were talking about.
Yes.
That we have what we call biases. All of us have them.
Yes.
One of the things that we have is called confirmation bias.
That's right.
Confirmation bias is when you are more likely to seek out, right, and agree with judgments and analysis that fit your own worldview rather than those that challenge it.
That's right.
So I am more likely in my confirmation bias to confirm and agree with things that I already believe and agree with than those that are going to challenge what I believe with. We also have another thing that gets in the way of us finding truth, which is called cognitive dissonance. You want to talk a little bit about cognitive dissonance? I don't know.
Go ahead, brother.
Okay. So
you in the flow.
Cognitive dissonance is, again, a mental discomfort that we go through when our personal views and our personal ideas do not match the actual facts and evidence that is given to us.
Absolutely.
And we will do Simone Biles type of gymnastics to make that thing make sense.
To synchronize the two.
To synchronize the two together, right?
Yes.
So again, I don't know if I want to use that one as an example because people are going to think we're being. I'm just gonna say it. Donald Trump.
Yes.
People believe that the election was stolen.
Right.
All of the data and all of the research, even amongst the conservative judges that Donald Trump himself appointed, said this is empirically false.
Yes.
It's not true.
Right.
The evidence shows that it was not stolen.
Right.
It's just, that's literally the evidence.
Yes.
And now a lot of those companies that were being slandered for these voting machine companies are suing a lot of the folks that were doing the slander.
That's right.
So you could, if you believe that the election was stolen, And there is no way that he did not win. You will, and which we saw at the Capitol riot.
Yes.
That's exactly why cats were storming the Capitol. All of those
Sure.
people. You will make up all kind of reasons in your brain for why the evidence is actually not true.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, that's just what you will do. That's what.
And you will always be able to find reasons
Yes.
to comfort what you want to be true. That's why I say about Google, man, that Google is the home of searching for things that confirm your truth, even if it's not true.
That's the thing about the internet.
Yeah.
That's the thing about the information age. That's
Yeah.
why it's so complicated. Because in the information age, you can literally find information to fit everything you want to believe.
Absolutely.
Bro.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yes.
Our computers are confirmation bias machines.
That's
bro.
right.
The difference between us letting it confirm our biases is us. Because we can, either way, it's the user. It's user error. That's what we
Sure.
call it, user error, bro.
Yes.
And so one of the things that we need to do is we need to watch cognitive dissonance, right? People don't really like to be challenged and told that they're wrong.
Which is why one of our mantras here is no easy answers.
Oh,
Which
you
is
go ahead.
why, boom, we got these puppies right here.
Our mantra.
2 mantras from Ameen and I. This has been way before Southside Rabbi. This has been 2 staples of our friendship in terms of our thinking together as a band of brothers. One is we are faithful to the end.
Right.
Loyal to the end. Loyal to each other. Loyal to the kingdom till the end.
Right.
That is, for us, the finish line.
Right.
Not when, for us, the finish line is standing before Jesus.
Right.
So everything that happens in between is a commercial for the featured film.
Amen.
The second thing is this phrase right here. No easy answers. Because what we noted early on is that cognitive dissonance will lead you to embrace things in effort to assuage the conflict in your heart and
discomfort,
mind.
right.
The discomfort. It will lead you to believe things, perpetuate, prop up and share things or be gullible in a way,
right?
Because it feels better when we get the simple answers.
Yep.
We have all taken apologetic classes. We have listened to apologists and theodicy, which is the
Problem of
branch
evil.
of theology that's trying to deal with the goodness of God next to the evil in this world. It can be simple.
Right.
It can be easy. It can be accessible to just band-aid things with these answers that end up serving no one.
Right.
Because and we saw this happening time and time again with youth group kids, that they would leave the youth group, go into the world and be out of there, bro.
Right.
Because as soon as they got to college, and this philosophy professor asked very simple, so what happens after God didn't make Adam and Eve, he made Adam and Steve? What happens next? So what does that mean for
Right.
this
Right.
or that?
Right.
And you found that you didn't have anything but slogans and bumper stickers. That it's not enough to hold. Your Christian kind of position is being held together by band-aids and thread. It's not robust. So it's a discipline that we've tried to keep as a regular part of our lives and our friendship, that we want to be on our show and that we want to massage into the audience at large, is that my guys, my gals, we have to be deep thinkers.
We have to be critical thinkers.
We have to be critical thinkers.
We have to be deep critical thinkers.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. That will help guard us against being just carried away by conspiracy.
And can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
The irony is, just like the Beatitudes, we talked about this in a previous episode,
Right.
that the difficulty of what Jesus said is not that it was too complicated. It was too simple.
That's true.
This kingdom is based on simple, straightforward principles that become extremely complicated because they disrupt the desire in us to justify ourselves, to have things that are always profound, sexy, eccentric, exciting.
Right.
Love your neighbor.
Right.
Humble yourself. Give away.
Right.
Turn the other cheek. These are very, very simple directives, which makes them hard to get around. And what we find is that no easy answers is not an attack on simple answers.
Yes.
Sometimes the simple answer is, you don't know.
Right.
But I'm going to love anyways.
Right.
I don't know what the answer is, but I know what I ought to be doing
Right.
while we wait.
Absolutely.
That feels
Simple, yep. As
incomplete.
As folks would say, it's simple but not easy.
Exactly.
That's not the same thing.
That's right.
Simple but not easy.
That's right.
It's simple to understand and grasp what you have to do. It's not easy to do it.
Like maybe climate change is real.
Right.
Maybe the fact that gas companies who are making trillions of dollars off of selling fuel that is obviously affecting the environment.
Right.
When fuel companies come out and say, climate change is real, guys. We are back here trying to figure out a way to lower our emissions by 2035.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or eliminate our emissions by 2035. You have fuel companies that are saying that. You also have foreign countries who are adversaries of the United States who agree with the United States on this assertion.
And you also have scientists from different political sides of the spectrum all agreeing on it as well.
Scientists that support the left, scientists that support the right, that there is indeed a general understanding across adversaries, bro, that are, and then people who are saying, who this is not in the best interest of big gas companies to acknowledge what's happening to the ozone layer.
Right.
If all of that is happening, a simple answer might be, maybe climate change is real.
Yeah, and maybe we are contributing to it somehow.
Maybe human beings are contributing to it somehow.
Somehow?
A much more complicated way to look at that is the cabal that you're talking about.
Exactly.
Is that all of this is a part of this heaven, bro? I have been around in the music industry. You think that the further you go up the chain, if Kanye West is doing arenas or stadiums or whatever it may be, his team must be well organized and oiled the stuff. Bro, in the folks that put on Super Bowls, you can find some of the most dysfunctional kind of systems and things falling apart. The people that do the organization thing the best are still unorganized.
Right.
We saw this at the FBI. We saw this at the with the FBI and the CIA when they were investigating what the Cubans were doing in terms of pushing communism.
Right.
All the way. I think they called her the Prince of. There was a woman that was working for the national intelligence, fam, for like 20 years.
For the Cuban government.
Who was a double agent for the Cuban government. The people they exist to sniff out liars and double agents.
Right.
At the highest level was being laughed at regularly by the Cuban government because they were all infiltrated in America, literally in D.C. And on the ground in Cuba. They thought they had people in Cuba that were sending back intel. All of them were reporting to Fidel Castro. The people who are the best at doing organization often have organizational breakdown.
Right.
How in the world is the entire globe filled with thousands and thousands of powerful operatives who are all on the same page, who are all working for the same goal? That they may find themselves in different religions, creeds, different nationalities, but somehow for this evil work. That you are, in some ways, with all due respect, you are giving more credit to humanity than is actually necessary.
That's true.
Fam.
And you're asking me to suspend reality of what I know about humanity in order to believe this. That's why I did that whole idea of
Y'all can't figure out how to pave a road.
So that's why the whole idea.
Human beings have figured out.
That's why the whole idea of the New World Order to me is asinine. You're telling me that governments that are adversaries of one another are somehow, they all have this secret plan in which they are all on the same page to bring together a one world government, which we can't even have several governments without beefing.
Sure.
So who's going to run that?
We can't even have
but we can't even have local
governments are beefing with the federal government.
Exactly. So the government can't even operate right. Which again, I love all my brothers and sisters of all political persuasions.
Sure.
There is conspiracy on the left that is crazy,
out of this world.
But the data shows that the majority of conspiracy theory is on the right. They're right-wing conspiracies. And a lot of folks that I know on the right who are conservative, which I am socially conservative, believe that the government is not good at running things. That's why we don't want to depend upon them.
Yes.
But you're telling me that the government is good enough to run a a multi-generational secret cabal with their adversaries and with other world governments to bring forth a plan that has been in place since the beginning of government world powers to bring a one world currency and a one world government to dominate these people and oppress them under this one kind of governmental ecosystem. That makes zero sense. The government can't even get their finance. They can't even do Congress right. We talk about how crazy, how horribly disorganized the government is, which is why conservatives say we don't want them in our lives controlling our stuff.
That's right.
But for somehow they have all of all the organization in the world, like I said, for hundreds of years.
Yes, this is generational.
To pull off a one world government plan with other adversaries, it makes no sense.
Yes.
And that's not what's happening.
I would say to my dear brother and my dear sister out there, at the very least, can we admit that to prop that up as facts is to betray how facts work?
Right.
This is your perspective that you've pulled together mainly from YouTube videos.
Right.
You've pulled this together from fringe articles.
Yeah, from forums.
How you arrived there was the work of defying the main way in which you are able to verify truth and live in this world. Let me just say this.
No, do it.
The main way in which people are able to operate in this world. There's a great book called Duped. The long form by a different author to Malcolm Gladwell's Talking to Strangers. And it's about this theory called truth default theory, which is that essentially human beings are ripe to be deceived by people who want to deceive.
Right.
That there's a default setting in human beings that they lean towards believing that someone is not lying to them, right? That's how you live your life. When you go to Starbucks and you get your, chai latte and you get your receipt back, normally you don't even look at it. You hear what they say.
Yep.
$4.99. You don't see if the $4.99 matches the receipt. You don't see if
they charge $8.99.
Yeah, if it was $8.99, you don't look like you don't bought that thing up, put it in your pocket. And even now, there's the don't give me a receipt option.
Yep.
We trust cashiers so much that we don't even take our receipt anymore. And the IRS is sitting back like, yeah, boy. You live your life when you get hurt or you are sick, you go to a doctor. You are at that doctor because you believe that they're board certified. You have not seen their credentials. You haven't seen what school they went to.
Yep.
When you get on an airplane, you don't interview the pilot. You don't ask him, where was he last night? Did he have anything to drink? Does he have any predilections or are you
been riding the white Bronco?
You've been riding the
You ain't ask him if he been riding the white
Has
Bronco.
Has been some white lightning going through those nose?
Right.
Those nostrils?
Right.
You do any of that. You trust, you sit down in chairs, so on and so forth. You are generally people that have to trust. And here's the thing. A society is filled with people who are leaning towards trusting what it is that they have received is a society that makes people far more susceptible to be deceived. But it is the best possible choice.
Right.
Because the alternative is, and I had a great conversation with my wife about this concerning vaccines. Because I said, baby girl, we have to ask ourselves, what kind of people do we want to be? Do we want to go down this path where everyone is lying all the time? Because it doesn't just stop. If the doctors, we have friends that work on vaccines, Christians, that are in our community, whose Jesus is more important to them than their own lives.
Right.
Who can sit us down and explain to us a lot of the research, a lot of the debates around them.
Right.
The vaccines you should stay away from.
Right.
Vaccines that are safe. If they can explain those things to us, and then our primary doctor,
right,
and the specialty doctors,
right.
Well, all these people that we can put hands on. You can't put hands on people on QAnon and YouTube.
Right.
I don't know who these people are.
Right.
I don't know who Fight the Power 367 on YouTube.
Y'all don't know who Q is.
You don't know who Q is.
He's in he could be a man in his mom's basement just writing PDFs saying that he was an insider for the government. You don't know who he is.
We have no idea.
And cats just taking what he's saying as gospel.
Absolutely. But the people that you can talk to, the local newspaper, brothers and sisters, that you can drive up to the front door to where they are. I used to work at one, actually.
Yep. Me too.
You can, in a terrestrial way, relate to the voices of those that you can smell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Their presence.
Right.
If they can say that to you, and you can still say, because it feels better in my mind, because I don't want to give my children something that hurts them, which is a good thing. There is great, well put arguments citing. I got a book at the crib actually that's like, it's like 300 arguments or something like that. That are attempting to debunk the efficacy of vaccines. If you can read that, watch the YouTube videos, whatever, and say, I'm going to go with the people that I don't know, the people who are beyond touch, beyond scrutiny. I'm going to go with them because I feel better about their opinion because it serves what I'm already biased to. Then you, my friend, have become gullible and the very image of the thing that you're always talking bad about.
Yeah.
Cheap.
And that's crazy because it's the irony is that those who would claim that they are not gullible, not sheep, those who are down the rabbit hole of conspiracy or leaning into conspiracy, they would say, well, we are the critical thinkers, right? Because we question everything and we don't trust anybody. And every time, if the news comes out and says it, we don't believe it. If COVID is out there, is it really real? If vaccine comes out, should we have the vaccine? We question everything. How are y'all saying that we are not the critical thinkers? It is y'all who just accept everything gullibly.
Right.
And what I would say to them is that being a critical thinker is not necessarily just and only questioning everything. It doesn't just stop at asking yourself, is this true?
Yeah.
That's one part of what it means to be a critical thinker. But the other part is proper research.
Yes.
Being a critical thinker is twofold. It is not being gullible with what you receive, but verifying what you receive.
That's right.
Or what you didn't receive, right? So knowing how to find and vet credible sources, as we talked about,
which is the
literacy.
basis of what research is. And I want
Right.
you to underscore that, bro.
Right.
Because I think that's when people are propagating conspiracies, the main kind of rebuttal that they will give you is that you need to do your own research. I did my own research.
Right.
So what is this research that needs to be done?
Yeah, the question is, what is the research that needs to be done?
Yeah.
Because informational literacy and learning how to research means researching proper sources, right?
Yes.
So I've read, like, let's say it was a website that said Dr. Fauci has created COVID-19, right?
Yes.
That's the headline.
Yes.
I go and I read the website and I look at their source. First of all, one of the things that we need to think about is if we're reading something, we need to ask ourselves, what is the source of this information?
Yes. Where's this coming from?
So
anyone can say anything.
Who is this coming from?
Yes.
What do they already believe? What agenda may they have behind saying this? That all doesn't mean that they're untrue,
Right.
but it does give you some kind of context.
Yes. So no easy answers. However, does not mean non-critical answers.
Yeah, I think that we have to be critical thinkers.
Sure.
And I think that conspiracies are depending upon us not to be critical thinkers, but it makes us feel like we are. Because conspiracy questions everything, right? As soon as something comes forth, is it true? Is it not true? COVID-19, is COVID true? Is it real? Is the vaccine good? Is
Sure.
the right? It questions everything. Oh, a terrorist attack happened. Was it really terrorist? Was it the government?
Right.
And I think that what a lot of conspiracy minded folks will try to get other people to think, or conspiracy outlets, is just like question everything.
Right.
Nothing could be trusted.
Right.
But the thing about that is, being a critical thinker is not necessarily just questioning everything. I think that's part of being a critical thinker. Like,
Right.
how do I know this is true?
Sure.
But I think that there's a second part of being a critical thinker. I think it's twofold. You're going to ask yourself, how do I know this is true?
Right.
And then I'm asking myself, and then I'm doing proper research to find the truth. So it's
More
not
like
just
verifying.
Right, verifying. So it's not just questioning it, but it's verifying it, and then understanding how to do proper research in order to verify.
Yeah.
What kind of sources do I go to? What kind of, what things should I be looking at? If I'm looking at a source and the only sources that they're giving me is other people that think exactly like the source, it's probably not the best place to go.
Yes.
Right. So that's like when you're looking at what is true, you want to chase down
Yes.
the sources.
Because a lot of times what headlines are doing is plausible deniability. They're
Yes.
saying enough in their statement to confirm your bias, but enough that if their feet were
they had to
held
go
to
to
the fire
court-
and say, well, technically we used this word and not that one.
Right.
Yeah.
If they had nothing, if they had to go to court, they could make
Sure.
some kind of argument for why they weren't really trying to deceive people by what they said.
yeah.
But they usually headlines are and we have to remember headlines are like really the most sensational things because they're trying to get you to read it.
Sure.
So like I saw another one that said Dr. Fauci admits to funding gain of function research, and I went in there and read the source material what Fauci said, and that's not what he said at all, right?
Sure.
So you always have to ask yourself, like, what is the source? I don't want the article to tell me. I want to actually read the source, especially if it's pointing to the source.
Yes.
So I think that's good. But I think that, there are some things that I think that we could do. We need to check our biases. We have to remember that we're all biased.
Yes.
And so a good thing that we can do is think about what our biases may be. So for me, I'm black.
Yes.
I'm a millennial.
Yes.
I'm a male.
And you're a part of NRA. Sorry. No, you're not
No,
part
I'm
of
not.
NRA. I get
So,
confused.
it's so stupid. So I'm black, I'm male, I'm a millennial, so I may have some articles like I may be interested in stuff that may interest me in those three things,
Yeah.
right? I also love reading and learning new information. I like writing. I'm not good with math or science.
Sure.
Like I'm not a fan. I'm not the biggest fan of like mathematics. I just like to know enough for me to be able to know my
Sure.
budget
Yes.
and invest
Balance
and know
that
my
checkbook.
ROI.
Yes. Yeah.
And balance my checkbook. But I'm also not the biggest fan of math and science, which means that I would probably be easier to convince in stuff about math and science because I don't know much about those things. So you have to be honest with yourself with that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
If I also like history.
Sure.
So you may be it's maybe harder to convince me with stuff that's historical.
Sure.
Opposed to somebody that doesn't really like to read a lot of history,
sure.
right? So I mean, there's a lot of different biases, but it's
good,
good
I
for
mean.
you to like know what your biases are
Right.
and how it could contribute to the kind of to how you receive and process information,
Right.
and then try to be aware of those things. I think, but I do think that there are some things that we can do to kind of safeguard against being duped by disinformation
Sure.
and fake news and conspiracy. And to be better, thinkers when it comes to the information age. One of the things that I think that we can do is break out of your own news silo. So like we said earlier, the internet is a confirmation bias machine, bro.
Sure.
Right? And now with algorithms, it already knows what you like, so it's gonna feed you more of what you already believe.
Sure.
So it's good to jump to get out of your news news silo and look at journalists, experts, media outlets, and that you follow, and ask yourself, am I following them because they keep me well informed, or am I following them only because I already agree with them?
Sure.
Right?
They're going to give me more arguments for what I already believe.
Yes, right. So you got to ask yourself, why am I following certain people? And then try to diversify what you're reading and who you're following.
Sure.
I'm not the biggest fan of Fox News.
Yes.
Sometimes I read Fox News.
Yes.
Sometimes I watch Fox News.
Yes.
Not the biggest fan of it. I have my own critiques about it, but sometimes I'll read their stuff. And sometimes when Fox is reporting just like bare bones news, they're good.
Sure.
But it's when they start reporting opinion.
It's basically after like 5 o'clock. But
Right. After 5 o'clock.
Before 5.
Yes,
You can
right.
count on-
the
you can count on
morning,
Fox.
the morning and the evening. Fox is kind of like they're at their worst, right? But I think, but I think you also have to remember there's a difference between an opinion piece on websites and actual news, right?
That's right.
That's why they have op-eds so you want to make sure you know the difference on what you're reading.
Yes.
Good sites differentiate between the two. Some sites don't.
Yes,
And
agreed,
you gotta
agreed.
kind of wade through that. But I think so. You wanna diversify your news silo.
And if I could sharpen one part of what you're talking about in this discipline of verifying,
right.
Of course, the way we live our lives is that we operate with some degree of trust, right? As I was mentioning earlier about truth default theory. These things become radically important in the area of you taking a position that you're about to start sharing with other people.
Yes.
And you're taking that position and it's absorbing your time, your interest. You're up at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning going deep down, not the rabbit hole of the Greek and the Hebrew.
Right.
But of YouTube videos and fringe websites.
Exactly.
That are pulling pictures and videos and edits and
Right.
quotes.
Right.
If this is what you're giving yourself to, realize it's not neutral. You're not a passive recipient of the things that you're learning.
No.
They are in a lot. The things that you are drinking down are starting to make you a kind of person. That's why you typically will never find somebody who is deep into conspiracies and it's just one conspiracy.
Right.
They're typically a part of a conspiracy community.
Right.
And we're on the same page about flat Earth. Yeah, we're on the same page about Fauci. Yeah, we're on the same page about so on and so forth. I think that it is good if you're going to put the weight of your witness, the weight of your reputation, the weight of people's perception of your ability to tell the truth behind something.
Right.
It demands what Ameen is talking about.
Yes, you have to have
You
that.
have to.
You have to.
Yes.
Absolutely.
There's too much at stake not to.
Too much at stake not to.
Yeah.
And you got to also remember, if you're a Christian, you have more at stake.
Yes.
Because as Paul says, we should be speaking the truth in love.
Right.
And what you could be doing is bearing false witness.
Yes.
And not speaking the truth.
Yes.
And you don't want to be doing that as a believer.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
We want to be integral people. I think also with breaking out of your own news silo, you have to, like I said, when it comes to biases, you have to be aware of news reports that read more like opinion pieces. Right? Looking at what sources of media outlets can tell you about, looking at what the website is saying about themselves can tell you about their bias. So again, Fox News, they may say they're conservative. They actually rose because CNN was already out, and Fox News wanted a conservative alternative to CNN. That's why Fox News, that was its inception.
Sure.
So they're more conservative, right?
Right.
And you have other places that are more liberal, more conservative, more centrist, right? And so just knowing what kind of political leaning your source has is a good way to kind of be able to understand what you're reading as well, right?
Yeah.
And so I think you got to think about that. You got to think about you have to be truthful about what people are saying. You think about Fox News, for instance. You have like a Sean Hannity, who was a very big person that pushed the election denial stuff, like that Donald Trump did not lose the election. January 6th committee comes, they interview him about it. He says, I never believed it. Right?
Really?
So he says that he never really believed
when cats
it.
get under oath, they start talking different.
Right. When cats, and that's why it's important. You need to look at some of the people that you listen to when they're talking under oath too.
Yes.
So you have Sean Hannity under oath saying, I didn't really believe that stuff, and a lot of other Republicans that said that too, but we're pushing the theory. And you have to ask yourself, what does it mean that I may be listening to a person that's pushing something that they don't really believe?
Sure.
Are they a good source of information?
Yes. And
right?
they wouldn't stand by it if it was going to cost them something, being under oath.
Exactly. Would they stand by it if it was going to cost them something?
Yes.
3, again, check the evidence that's given. I talked about that already. Look at what sources that folks are giving you. Make sure that you look at the primary sources. There's a difference between primary source and secondary source.
Sure.
So real quick, primary source in the Fauci example that I used is the actual letter that the guy from the NIH wrote.
Yes.
That's the primary source.
Right.
The article is a secondary source.
Sure.
Right? The article is saying, this is what he said in the letter. This is, how we interpret it.
Yes.
But you want to say there's a difference between the two. Secondary sources are not always false either.
Yes.
But you want to know what the difference between the primary
Sure,
source, secondary
sure.
source. 4th, I would say, look at the other side of the story. Right? So again, when David French was on our podcast, he said a great thing. One of the ways that we determine whether or not something is true is the same way that our justice system determines whether something is true. They hear from the defense, they hear from the prosecution.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you got to pretend like you're part of a jury. You're trying to decide at the end of the trial whether or not someone is guilty or not.
Sure.
And if that is the case, you don't just listen to the prosecutor.
Sure.
And that's it. Or you don't just listen to the defense and that's it.
Yeah.
You want to listen to both sides. And typically you want to understand both sides so well that you're able to repeat to both sides what they're saying, and they would agree that is what they're saying.
Sure.
That you understand.
That is important, I mean.
Yes.
Yes.
Because you don't want to just be able to repeat what the other side is saying. And there's like, that's not what I'm saying at all. That means you don't understand it, right? And that, again, slants how you determine what is true and what is not.
And it's the height of arrogance for somebody to look you in your face and say, that's not what I'm saying. That's not who I am.
Right.
And you say, no,
that is
in
exactly,
my mind,
right.
that's exactly who you are and exactly what you're saying.
So if you thinking that Dr. Fauci funded gain-of-function research, I'm not saying that's true or false, but I am saying that he is adamantly denying that is the case.
Sure.
It would be good to understand why he's denying that and what he is saying. Doesn't
Sure.
mean that you have to agree with him, but you should be able to represent his position in a way that if he heard you, he would say, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
Right. And then I'd say 2 more. one, give government run media a side eye. If a media's government ran, you should probably be very cautious.
Sure.
That means that because the government is controlling what the media is saying.
Sure.
Russian television, RT television is a great example of that. And I've had
Korean news,
North Korea. Yep, exactly. I've had a lot of I've seen believers that I know share articles and everything from RT. So it's like, hey, you got to understand that the Russian government is deciding what news is being reported and not. So it's extremely biased.
That's right. And they're at war. Let's put that in there.
Right. And they're at war. And they're an adversary to the United States.
And others.
Right.
Yes.
So they're an adversary to us. So if they're sharing something about us, you gotta really think about what is okay. And then last I will say is and I'm getting this again from my homegirl Cindy Otis. Watch out for loaded terms. She says something good. She says good reporters know that their choice of words is incredibly important. And they work to be precise and as neutral as possible.
Sure.
So loaded words are the opposite of being precise and neutral. So if someone's saying, someone admitted, right, to something, again, that means that they were hiding something.
Sure.
Because literally, if I go back to the Washington Post website, the headline says, the New York Post, it says Fauci's agency admits it funded gain-of-function work in Wuhan. What else are they keeping from us? That's the headline. So you can already see the bias in the headline. It's already trying to get the reader to believe they are hiding something from you. They can't be trusted.
Sure.
Right? And so you got to look at that stuff and be like, that's very biased. So I probably should be doing some more reading than just what they're saying.
I mean, what would you say if someone said to you, which someone said to me several times, several people said this to me.
Right.
You're black, Ameen.
Right.
Don't you have this whole thing with the police? And there's also Tuskegee.
Right.
And, COINTEL.
Right.
There's a lot of reason not to trust the government. You sound like you have a lot of confidence in the government when they tell you things.
Right.
What would you say to that?
I think that I would say, again, it's based upon what you are researching.
Sure.
So I disagree with the government where it's been proven that the government did things that were false. So like really, COINTELPRO.
So it's actually irrelevant what the government, in any situation, they are still getting the same metric of how you extract truth.
I think, yes. And I think that that's how we should always approach it, right? Yes, even if it's like something that's been notoriously, like say someone has been notoriously a liar, right? You may say, you know what? I'm just gonna not really even listen to what they're saying anymore. I mean, I guess some people could take that thing, but it doesn't mean that they can't say something true.
That's right.
And you could find yourself dismissing something that they're saying that's true because you're just constantly predicating everything that they're saying based upon what they did in the past. And so I think that, yes, I think that black folks are weary of the government, right?
Sure.
Or some, right? But I think that I want to be, cautious of the government where I think that there is caution based upon what information out there is really truthful.
Sure.
Right? And so I think that one of the things that we have to ask ourselves when we hear something is this something that I or someone else can prove? Can I look it up in a history book?
Sure.
Can I see it in an online encyclopedia?
Sure.
Is there empirical evidence that can prove this thing?
Yes.
If it is, then I'm probably looking at something that's a fact,
yes.
right? And when we are talking with people, we have to get in the habit of asking them how they know that what they have said is a fact.
Sure.
Right? Or you're asking that to what you're reading. How do I know that this is factual,
Sure.
what I'm reading? If it's a fact, can you point to the source of information? You should ask this about the articles you're reading, the YouTube videos you're watching, right? How do I know what you're saying is fact? If it is, can you point to the source? So if somebody is telling you about QAnon and Q is dropping these breadcrumbs, you should be asking yourself, how do I know that I can trust Q?
Sure.
Who is Q?
Yes.
Okay, Q says that he is he worked for the government. How do I know that's true?
Can you verify that?
Can I verify that?
Yes.
And if Q says, well, I can't verify it because then I would release my identity, and I would say, well, then it's probably best that I don't believe this to be true.
Yes, because it's circular. There's no way to hold you accountable.
There's no way.
It's like with Andrew Tate right now.
Yep.
The exact same thing with Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate gets arrested on things that we were telling you all it sounded like he was saying for a while.
And also some things that he kind of also said a little bit.
Well, I'm saying he has sounded like someone who has an inappropriate relationship with women at large that men should not be listening to. We've been telling them for a long time. Now, all these things, now that he has been caught, people are saying that the Matrix came for him.
Right.
So now it's crazy. I've watched the goalposts move back 2 or 3 times. Now he he didn't do those things. He was not involved in some kind of trafficking ring or something like that. Now, as videos and what he said, audio messages from WhatsApp, definitely all of the evidence that these government officials are bringing against him are coming out. Now the argument is, well, is that truly sex trafficking?
I didn't even see that. That's crazy.
Whatever you can do to somehow run PR for what is obviously in front of you so you can keep your man, you're willing to do.
That's confirmation bias.
And there's no way to, how can you defeat that argument? It is a irrefutable argument because no matter what you say, either if he did it, either he didn't do it, or if he did do it, it wasn't the way he did it wasn't wrong.
So you can't defeat it.
That's right.
Yeah. And you're right. You're right. And I think that, again, that's why we have to be people of facts, right?
Yes.
So
can you end the episode, Meansy, giving some encouragement to dear brothers and dear sisters out there who are living with the conspiracy theorists that you're talking about?
Man, it's hard when you have somebody that's close to you. That's drenched in conspiracy. Because sometimes people that are down the rabbit hole of conspiracy, it's like talking to someone that's in a cult. Right? I always say conspiracy is amorphous. So it has the ability to not only take on new information and continue to keep itself alive, but it does, as you said, KB, move the goalposts.
Yes, it does.
So, like, Alex Jones, Sandy Hook was a false flag operation. Alex Jones gets hit with goes to court. Right? Oh, the globalists are coming after me.
That's right.
Right? And then now that he gets found guilty for this, because I mean, what he did was horrible. He had people threatening the parents because of his conspiracy.
Right.
Now he's like, oh, well, the globalists in the network, they're trying to silence me by making me pay $1.4 billion. They're trying to drain Alex Jones of all his resources. It's always going to be another way to give an answer for why someone was wrong or why this information doesn't make sense. So I think that the only thing I think that you can do with folks that are like really grabbed by conspiracy is try to present to them as much in like evidence as you can, ask questions.
Yes.
And you gotta pray for them, man.
Yes.
Because I think that conspiracy, again, it grabs people and it's almost like cultish. The kind of relationship folks can have with conspiracy. It starts changing who they are. It changes the way that they think. It changes the way that they see the world and the way that they see people. And so I think that you have to be as patient as possible. You have to try to be as factual as possible. And I think that you have to be winsome. I don't think getting mad at somebody that believes in conspiracy, calling them an idiot or stupid or all of that doesn't do anything. A lot of people that believe in conspiracy already feel embattled anyway. And they already feel like they're going against that. People that think that they're idiots are just proving more of the conspiracy.
You're strengthening their belief.
Right. So I think that
by resisting it. Oh my gosh.
That's why a conspiracy is dangerous, because you strengthen it by resisting it. And it has the ability to take on new information and morph and continue to keep going.
It's just putting it back in. It's like
it's a machine.
Falls out, I just put it right back in the basket.
It's a machine. And so and because it does that because it's not based upon facts. It's upon feelings and emotions. So and that's why conspiracy always have to keep you scared. So for instance, me and Derek the other day we were watching. I was showing Derek the live InfoWars thing that they run 24 hours a day. You watch Alex Jones podcast. Alex Jones live stream. It's all fear-based. They're coming for you. He was selling a vitamin D3 supplement and began the commercial for the vitamin D3 supplement about people during the plague dying because of vapors, and that what prevents it is vitamin D3. Everything is fear-based. And so I think that it's predicated upon emotion, and emotions are always going to be there.
And can I throw this in there too, Meansy? Yeah, conspiracies are predicated upon emotions. Emotions can be undefeated when it comes to discourse.
Oh, absolutely.
I can't just talk you out. I cannot talk you out of how you feel.
And we're usually not dispassionate in discourse. We're usually not in discourse void of all of our emotions.
They're there with
a brain
us,
on a
for
stick.
sure.
Right.
I like to think of it as two realities are happening in the face of every situation. One is what I am feeling in my fear of change, my emotional capacity that hates change. So I already have, if you're bringing something to me that is causing me to rethink, renegotiate, or to pivot in some way, there's already going to be a bristling and a hold on. That's just not how we did it. That's not how we thought about it. So it's the discomfort. But then there's also laying out, which is I would probably say the more rational side of the category that I have in every situation, where I have to consider what are the objective realities of what's going on here.
Right.
And somewhere in between these two categories is the right decision, because my emotions are still very helpful in how I make decisions. We should not be turning them off, but we should be guiding them. It's a difference between following your heart and leading your heart.
Right.
In every scenario, your heart needs to be there.
Exactly.
But I think what I feel like what has become so difficult in engaging this conversation with people who have taken the conspiracy on as an identity, and they have this cultic kind of commitment to it, is that when we begin to present more evidence to them or some other perspective, and we begin to debate, along with strengthening their positioning by refuting it, right? Which is a crazy place to be, bro.
Yes.
So
It's hard.
that's what we saw in the prosperity gospel. If it's not working, it's because your faith is weak.
Right.
And if it does work, then that means your faith was strong. But either way,
we're not wrong.
We're not wrong.
Right.
However you want to put it. So anyways, but the other thing that you do that calcifies their beliefs is the way in which you argue your points.
Exactly.
If you lose it on them, which is what I can resonate. I remember.
Oh, absolutely. Me too.
I remember my wife was a part of a small group one time, and there was a sister in the small group who develops vaccines. She does research. That's her degree, and she was a beautiful degree from a beautiful college.
Yeah.
But that's what she does. She researches for vaccines. And some sisters came on and started talking about foil and aluminum and all these other aborted baby parts being put in. Which none of that applied at all to what the vaccine that they were talking about. And I remember this sister becoming overwhelmed. She hit my wife up separate. She said, "Hey, I can't be a part of this group. She said, I don't have the capacity to be here and to explain something to somebody and to have them hit my research with their YouTube links. I just can't do that." And I can appreciate the exhaustion that folks find around those who refuse to see something differently. I think in one category, Jesus endorses not continuing to throw your pearls to swine.
Right.
And it's very, very, very harsh language to use. But if somebody has decided to walk away from their humanity in that they can rationalize through things and allow at least for people who love them to share things that they might not have thought of.
Right.
That I might have some sort of influence in your life via the strength of our relationship. If you've cut yourself off from that and you are completely the result of what you have read through internet silos, arguing with these people is casting pearls among the swine.
Absolutely.
And you would be wrong to every time you go around them with more studies, you got a stack of papers you're throwing at them.
You're wasting your time.
You're wasting your time.
Yeah.
So at that point, for your obedience to Jesus, you do not need to enable toxicity by constantly participating in it.
Right.
That's one part.
Right.
The second part is, if brothers and sisters, I've seen this in my own life, and I think Ameen can attest to this too. If brothers and sisters can commit themselves to the long haul, saying, you did not land in this wild gymnastics of a logical jungle gym that you have codified into a belief. You didn't arrive there overnight.
Right.
There wasn't one debate that got you here. You have been building this fortress of misinformation probably over the last couple years, and the straw that broke the camel's back, and now all these conspiracies are rushing in. People do not get to where they are overnight, and they certainly and most likely are not going to leave that place overnight.
Right.
So you have to be down for the long run.
Right.
I'm accustomed to sitting down with somebody who believes that pigs can fly and saying, "Hey, bro, let me show you. Pigs cannot fly. I got a pig right here. Look at it. It hasn't flown. There's no wings. It's not possible.
Right.
The aerodynamics just don't make sense."
Exactly.
In that context, you're right to expect them to be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Late night.
I was
had
mistaken.
some gummies. You know what I'm saying? Pigs can't fly." But these things don't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we in some ways have to see all engagement with those who are wrapped in conspiracies in the way that it is beginning to, like plankton
Right.
in SpongeBob's head, manipulate somebody's movements and actions.
Right.
You have to sign up for the marathon for them.
Absolutely.
It's not the sprint. It's the marathon.
Yeah.
I would even encourage you, stay assured in the truths that you have come to believe through the things that Ameen has talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Stay true to that.
Mm-hmm.
But don't feel like you need to wage war in their presence. I would even do my best to divert.
Yeah.
Because what I have found in my life is that the casualty of the conspiracy is trust for people that are close to you.
Yeah.
And if you can establish trust again, I can put my confidence. This person's going to be speaking at, Alex Jones ain't speaking at your funeral.
No.
This guy's going to speak at my funeral.
Mm-hmm.
My homie was telling me that one of his friends got on this kick, some conspiracy kick, and totally forgot that he was his homie's godfather.
Wow.
If you can establish that, restore the trust factor that it's me, baby.
Right.
I think that opens the door. By God's grace, I've seen that in my own life, especially with the prosperity gospel.
Yeah.
That was the entryway into maybe there's something here. Because I'm confident in the conscience of human beings. I'm confident in the image of God that is left on every single individual, that even in the folks who are furthest gone,
Yeah.
there is still some ring of truth. There is still the material that we could, by God's grace, water and see grow into repentance and recalibration.
Right.
Recalibrating to what God is focused on,
Right.
which is not trying. It's not even if you were to look at what Revelation says as a newspaper to the New World Order that's coming, that is not the emphasis of the New Testament.
Yeah, I mean, God is not
all,
really focused
bro.
on trying to take down the deep state.
'Cause
He's not really, I mean, that's not his.
It's prophetic, let's just give to your argument that it's prophetic.
Yeah, say it's
that
true.
the New World Order is coming and God said it was. You going on a campaign of notifying the world does not slow it.
Right.
It doesn't
stop it. Yep.
What it does is it helps to make people more and more afraid.
Right.
Where you are not living in the kind of missional objective of making disciples and facilitating Christoformity and the people that you come in contact with. You're giving to the debate, the war. The war on, do you agree that the world is flat?
Right.
Or do you agree that the Illuminati is basically responsible? The devil is chilling. Devil ain't responsible for nothing, bro. These are all individuals that the devil works for. You know what I'm saying? And he's following their agenda. No, the scripture lays out the agenda of the enemy.
Right.
Be informed on how to lift the blind that the God of this world has put on the eyes of those who are perishing.
Yeah.
So I think that that's another way for us to think about moving forward in terms of patience and marathon-like sort of endurance, that we would win people's trust before we can challenge their truth.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Wrap that up for us, big dog.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, that's good. I just want everyone to, be more just be on your P's and Q's out there.
Sure.
We're swimming in an information age that's full of false misinformation and disinformation.
Yeah.
And you're not always going to get it right. That's another thing, is that you're a human just like the rest of us. Journalists are too.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? The thing about the thing that's great about it is admitting, when there's some error,
Sure.
and moving forward.
Yes,
but we're not always going to get it right. I've been duped by fake news before. I'm sure
Absolutely.
KB has.
Yeah.
Where there's too much information to not be.
Yes.
But there are ways in which we can be disciplined in our thinking.
Yes.
Is what I want us to do.
Yeah.
Is be disciplined in our thinking to make sure that we are doing the correct thing to excavate truth, so that our witness could stay intact and we can testify to the gospel with the confidence of the public that they can trust what we're saying.
Yeah. we're trustworthy
and so,
people.
yeah, we want to be trustworthy people. So we love y'all. This has been Southside Rabbi. Make sure y'all, man, we got some Southside Rabbi merch for you. So we got hoodies, we got shirts, baby. We got coffee mugs, baby. So make sure that y'all go check that out. Make sure to check
Mama
Native.
We Done merchandise.
Mama We Done merchandise. Southside Rabbi merch. Link is in the description. Shout out to Native Supply for sponsoring the podcast. We love y'all. God bless you. And we'll see you on the next one.
Love it.